Here we go. Boy, do we have some crazy news coming out of Niger, Africa. It seems like nobody else is reporting on this, so why not? Why not talk about this? Right now in Niger, we have a couple of different things going on. First major story is that you have the ambassador to Niger, French ambassador, being held hostage. That's right, being held hostage. Not a good thing. Some might argue this is an act of war on Niger's side. France might be using this to validate or to indicate they're going to go into the country with military force. France already still has military assets in Niger. Thank you everyone for joining. If you're joining this live, of course, I'll be posting the video. Something else we'll also be talking about in this video is how the U.S. military is also facing their own issues. Even though they left the capital, technically, where the French are and where all this is going down, they still have other issues they're going to be facing with Mali, probably a little more in the future. But for right now, the U.S. military is totally on the defensive. Yo, you don't get distracted this time. I'll try not to get distracted. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and see exactly what the French are saying, or really the French president. And I'll let you guys decide if you really think they're being held hostage, because this almost seems a little fishy, if I'm going to be honest with you, with how this story is being presented or what the French president is saying. French ambassador in Niger being held hostage by the junta, Macron says. France's ambassador in Niger is being held hostage at the French embassy by the military junta, which has seized power in West African nation, President Emmanuel Macron said on Friday. And this is what he says. As we speak, we have an ambassador and diplomatic members which are being literally held hostage at the French embassy, and food is prevented from being delivered. Okay, I'll give him that. That's not good, but we'll look at both sides of the story. And then he goes on to say, they're eating military rations, Macron told reporters. That's all we get, by the way. That is them being held hostage. They have food, but they're not allowed to be delivered food. So that's why when I was looking into the story, there's a lot of people out there who are not necessarily buying the fact that the French ambassador is being held hostage as bad as they say. Because consider, the United States is right next door, and everything seems to be going okay over here, but just a couple of 100 feet down the road, everything seems to be going wrong. So there's obviously some issues here. Now, this is the other issue, is that the French are almost coming off as like, we were given no time, we're being held hostage, we're trying to do this diplomatically. But this is what happened just a few weeks ago. Watch this video.
It's the latest broadside launched in the direction of France by the ruling junta in Niger. The military rulers who overthrew the democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum in late July have now ordered France's envoy to Niger to leave.
Hey, we have a $10 donation. Somebody said, Eric, will this be the first war started over not being able to get Uber Eats? Yes, I do. And I truly believe that the French are using this as an entryway or validation to get into Niger. I truly believe that, and you'll see why here in a second. Thank you so much for the $10 donation. Again, if you're just joining, I do post this so you guys can go back and rewatch. So thank you again.
Junta accuses France of intending to mount a military intervention, saying that the West African bloc ECOWAS was doing Paris's bidding.
The competent Nigerian authorities have decided to withdraw their approval from Mr. Sylvain Ité and to ask him to leave Nigerian territory within 48 hours.
Okay, so this right here is the make or break situation for the French. They were given 48 hours to leave a country. Now, as I've said before, this is a little more complex than packing up and leaving, because even the United States is like, we're not leaving, we're going to try to talk this through. But the French were given time. They were given a grace period. And not only that, they were given an opportunity to negotiate or try to figure out if you're going to totally leave the country or, try to work together with the junta. But the issue is that the French are just not willing to work with the junta because they don't recognize them as the true leaders of Niger. And here's what's also a little interesting is that neither does the United States, yet they've managed to strike up a peace deal with them or a deal to where operations can continue. So that's why I'm trying to share both sides of the story. And I think a lot of people are not buying the fact that being held hostage is quite a stretch. Because here's where things also get a little more confusing. Niger clearly is willing to work with the French in some capacity. Because about a couple weeks ago, France did announce, well, publicly, that one of their government officials had been captured and they were put in prison. But that news story ended within like a day or two right here. France announces the release of a French official in Niger. France's foreign ministry on Thursday announced the release of Stéphane Julien, a French official who had been held by security forces. The man is an advisor to French nationals in Niger. So again, it's almost like Niger knows who to go after, not to go after, because this right here sort of breaks the whole Niger, they're the bad guys, we can't work with them, but all of a sudden they're willing to release a French foreign official. And so it looks like Niger really is just trying to go straight to the top, go after the ambassador. And Niger did get rid of the ambassadorship's, immunity. A lot of ambassadors can go around throughout the world and not be touched because they're sort of just like the messenger. They're not really France. But in this case, Niger is seeing them as France. Now, the French do have experience with their ambassadors being held hostage. And when I was doing some research, it almost seems like, howdy from Texas, I see you. It almost seems like the French are very stubborn when it comes to employing and deploying their French ambassadors. Back in 1975, this is a while ago, but still, within Africa, Somalia, this is back on the 25th, 4 armed men kidnapped the French ambassador to Somalia over the weekend and took him to a suburban village. Now, interesting in this case, within 5 days, the French figured it out. They paid him $100,000 in gold. All was said and done. 5 days later, the man was safe. In this case, France was given the opportunity to try figuring it out, pull your ambassador, or at least relocate your ambassador. Nah, not this time. Something else I also find interesting before we head over to the United States is that, again, the U.S. military and the United States has managed to work with the junta, even though they don't recognize the junta. But I truly believe it's because in the last 20 years, it just so happens that the U.S. military has really only been in Niger to fight militant groups in the Sahel region of Africa. Not so much to go after uranium, not so much like the United States doesn't go into this country as like, hey, we really want to show you guys what being an American's all about. Whereas in France, that government official I was talking to you about, his actual job is to employ and educate French ideologies, French culture, etc. Okay, so now you know, I'll let you guys comment if you think the French are actually being held hostage here. In my opinion, again, I think they're kind of instigating the issue. Another really big issue is the fact that Mali is literally being overrun. And when I say literally, like they're being overrun right now by militant groups throughout the country. All of these attacks right here are through 2023 between Wagner Group, between other militant groups. You can't see the name on here. And the issue is these militant groups are running around free because the French are not there anymore. The UN is leaving by the end of the year. I don't think they'll fully leave, but they are leaving. Wagner, Russia, supposedly still working in Mali. Nobody knows what's going on because even Mali there's been an uptick ever since Wagner joined. I'll show you a chart here soon. But all of these militant groups are bleeding into neighboring countries like Niger, Burkina Faso. And that's not good because United States moved out of Niamey up into Agadez to get away from all the action on these border regions. A very well-known operation, the Tongo Tongo incident, happened on the border region with Mali. And unfortunately, U.S. Special Forces got ambushed due to not proper intelligence. But I'm showing you this to prove to you that these border regions with the countries are very serious. It's very real. And if these border regions are not secure, you get incidents that happen. So for the United States to move over to Air Base 201 to leave the capital, get away from the French, it's a good thing. But in the long run, it's actually a bad thing because now the United States is being held in a defensive posture and can't bring the fight to the border regions like they were doing before. Now, if you watched the video I posted today, I actually talked about this, but I might as well talk about it now. and we'll zoom in here. Right here is what's happening to Mali. The red line is a increase of attacks and violence in Mali. The line down here, this like teal, blue, green line, this is people leaving the country. So when you have more and more people leaving the country, you have more and more attacks. There's a direct correlation here. This is the only defense I see that France has into staying in Niger. As bad as the French can be, forcing French ideologies into a country that doesn't want them, you do have evidence that does show for the most part that, look, having them there might not be the worst idea. Look what happens to Mali, because even Mali right now, in 2021, I had memorized a special date here. Hold on, let me... Yeah, right here. In September 2021, a deal was made with Mali and Wagner Group to totally secure the country. But nonetheless, ever since this date where Wagner came in, we see a skyrocket in attacks. We also see a skyrocket of people leaving. So again, we do have direct correlation to show how this is an issue. Now, the United States is not in Mali, but like I had shown you before, these attacks are bleeding into Niger, where these militant groups can do whatever they want. So without a doubt, this is going to become a very serious issue in the near future if Niger doesn't figure it out, because Mali is under the rule of a junta. Burkina Faso is also under the rule of a junta. And again, direct correlations. When your country falls to a junta, you have more and more attacks. That is why ECOWAS and the French are so adamant to get into Niger to stop all this madness. And we have a $2 donation. Thank you for throwing me off. I appreciate you. So anyway, that's what's going on right now. If you're just joining, the French are being held hostage. Allegedly, apparently. The French ambassador has to eat military rations. Can you believe that? I was in the U.S. military. I had to eat military rations. I don't remember the president ever going out of his way to feel bad for me. But hey, maybe the French, maybe the ambassadors and the diplomats, you know, they're eating good. They're eating high over there. I don't know. I don't know what they're eating. I'm not French. Okay, anyway, if you guys want to do me the biggest favor ever, please like this. I'm going to post this video. Comment and like the posted video. It helps out a ton. And nobody else seems to be covering this, so why not be the crew who pushes this out to talk about it? So, yeah, French being held hostage. I'm curious what you guys have to say. Do you think they're really being held hostage, or is this all just a scam for the French to hype this all up and to go into Niger? I think they're kind of hyping this up when I'm analyzing all of this and looking at the data. So, yeah, love all you guys. Thank you for being here. Please go comment and like the posted video, and we'll see you guys later. And thank you for the donations, guys.